So Ben, you're a chazan also.
I'm inspired.
You're a chazan also.
I don't always do that. As a matter of fact, it's the first time I've ever done that, but I feel inspired. It's just the spirit, you know. Also, I was noticing on the chair next to me, there's one of these offering things. Make sure whatever money goes into it gets stamped. Make sure that from now on, any money that the Rebbe collects gets stamped by the little Rebbeettes. All right, I'm here to tell you a little about my life and times. I can tell you that it all started off in 7th grade gym class. Jerry and I were the two slowest, fattest kids in the class. And there'd be the whole class running around the track, and then half a lap behind, there was me and Jerry, and we got pretty friendly with each other. Then, yes, we went through junior high and high school together, and then it was time to go to college, and I didn't really want to go to college, so my father and sister applied for me, and I got into Colgate. Stayed for about a year, dropped out, went to Skidmore, dropped out, went to NYU, dropped out, went to the new school, and then I finally got into the most unstructured college program there was at the time, the University Without Walls. This university did not have any classes, they didn't have any classrooms, they didn't have any teachers. It was not online. It was before the age of online. It was before the internet. The idea was to go out into the world and you learn whatever it is you want to learn, and then you come back and you prove to them that you learned it, and they give you a degree, and I dropped out of there too. Jerry was trying to become a doctor, and he got rejected from all the medical schools he went to, and he tried to go to, and I was trying to become a potter, making my living selling pottery, but nobody would buy my pottery. And we realized that we were both failures in the world, and that if we were going to get anywhere, perhaps we had to start our own business. And since the only thing we really liked to do was eat, we started an ice cream business. And we just started as a little homemade ice cream shop, as the Rebbe said, in 1978 in an old gas station. That was abandoned, and that was all dilapidated, and Jerry and I fixed it up and put it together on an investment of about $8,000. We got all used equipment. The bank chipped in $4,000, so we had a total of 12. Of course, we didn't know how to make ice cream. We took an ice cream correspondence course from Penn State University, and we passed all the tests with flying colors. They're all open book tests. And then we realized, we needed to get a loan. We weren't very good at bank risks. We were new to the area. We had never been in business before. We weren't married. We weren't stable. We didn't have any assets. And that's why we had to apply for an SBA guarantee. And in order to apply for an SBA guarantee, you had to write a really good business plan. We didn't really know what a business plan was, but we had a friend who had been a consultant for the SBA who taught us, who said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a business plan for a pizza parlor that the SBA did give a guarantee for, and that's the format of a business plan, and we just kind of use that and write your business plan. We went through this and we started writing our business plan, and we realized that the only difference between a pizza joint and an ice cream joint is that one is selling pizza, the other is ice cream, and everything else is all the same. It's about the same price too. So we just took the existing pizza parlor plan, and everywhere it said slice out pizza, we changed it to ice cream cone, and the SBA approved it again.
How much were willing to give you?
Well, they were willing to give us $26,000, but we could only, they wanted a space that we would have for 7 years. They wanted us to have a 7-year lease because that was the payback period, and we could only get a 1-year lease. So that's why we ended up getting just the 4,000 back.
Where in Vermont is this?
In Burlington, Vermont, northern Vermont. So, we opened, and the ice cream was very successful. It was really good ice cream, and but we weren't making any money. We sold more ice cream than we expected to sell, and we made less money than we expected to make. And and we started realizing that the problem was portion control. That the cones we were scooping were too big, and we had a really hard time controlling our portions. And decided that maybe it would be better to get into the wholesale business and sell tubs of ice cream, where you fill the tub up to the top. That's the right portion, and didn't have to deal with the portioning in front of the customer, which is a little difficult. And so we got into this wholesale business. I was delivering ice cream in the back of my VW Squareback station wagon. Some people do remember the VW Squareback station wagon. And we had an insulated box that could hold 16 tubs of ice cream, and my job was to drive around to these restaurants as fast as I could and deliver it before it melted. And that actually worked pretty well. And actually we were selling more ice cream than I could hold in that insulated box, and we ended up getting a very old actual ice cream truck that had 250,000 miles on it. And, that had a big freezer, and it held a lot of tubs of ice cream, but it kept on breaking down. And the costs of towing it back and repairing it were eating into all our profits. So we were going out of business. And in a last-ditch effort to try to survive, we decided to try packing our ice cream into pint containers so that we could deliver it to the little mom-and-pop grocery stores that we were passing on the way to these restaurants. And that's what turned the corner for our business. And inside of a couple of months, we went from 50 accounts to 200 accounts.
Whose idea was that? The box of ice cream. Whose idea was that?
What, the little pints?
Yeah.
The tubs? Mine.
Okay.
So,
How many flavors?
we were doing about 9 flavors to start.
Oh, exotic one?
What's that?
Exotic flavors?
At the beginning, the most exotic flavors were mint with Oreo cookies and chopped up Heath bars in vanilla ice cream. So, so the business started growing, and we were able to find other distributors in other states that would sell our ice cream. And, because we were just selling it in Vermont and New Hampshire and upstate New York, and, that really isn't on the map in terms of retail or population or anything like that. And,
That along Route 93, they went that north and south.
yeah.
My son was over in New Hampshire. When they go to Boston, they go up and down,
Yeah, that's how we go to Boston. Yeah, 93. And so we started selling our ice cream into Boston, which was our first major market. And we were a little concerned about whether it was going to be successful there, so we did our first TV advertising, which were 10-second ads on late night TV in the middle of the Star Trek reruns. And this is how the ad went. It was me and Jerry in the middle of a pint lid saying, "Hi, I'm Ben, I'm Jerry. We may not have the money for a 30-second TV ad, but we're sure to make some of the best ice cream you ever tasted." And that was it. And,
No
it worked.
amen?
Huh?
No amen dance?
No amen dance. No. This was the first. This was the one and only. This is the only amen dance I've ever done. Das was far and away the leading super premium ice cream. I mean, we were this little upstart. We had like a tenth of their business, if that. And the distributor said, well, sorry, Ben and Jerry, you're really nice guys, and your ice cream's really good, but we're going to have to drop your product because, Haagen-Dazs is our bread and butter. And,
In what year was that? What year?
that was around 82. And so, we thought we were going to go out of business because Haagen-Dazs had tied up all the major distributors around the country. And, you had to go through a distributor to get your ice cream on the shelf, and they were all carrying Haagen-Dazs.
If there was room in the supermarket for Haagen-Dazs, was there room in the supermarket for Ben and Jerry's still room?
Of course, there's always room. But what they tell you is that it's real estate, and you got to buy your space.
Right.
So this was really bad. And we checked with the lawyer, and the lawyer said it's a restraint of trade under federal antitrust law that says that a company that owns the major share of any given market cannot use its power and economic strength to keep another company, a competitor, out of the market. And but they said, all you can do is sue Pillsbury. And we were this little itsy bitsy upstart, and we didn't have the money to sue Pillsbury. So we decided to take our case to the people, and we started the "What's the Doughboy Afraid of" campaign. And so we started flying banners around the major sports stadiums in Boston that said, "What's the Doughboy Afraid of?" And we took out these signs on the sides of the buses that said, "What's the Doughboy Afraid of?" and had these two pudgy white hands coming out from behind the sign, squeezing this pint of Ben and Jerry's. And Jerry was a one-man corporate picket outside the Pillsbury corporate headquarters in Minneapolis. And, we held a press conference, and one reporter showed up. And then we thought, who really cares if Ben and Jerry's goes out of business? And the answer was our customers. So we started putting these "What's the Doughboy Afraid of" stickers on our containers with an 800 number. And we started to get hundreds of calls a night, mostly between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m., which apparently is prime consumption time for our product. And the people would leave their name and address, and we would send them a Doughboy kit that included a write-in letter to the Federal Trade Commission and a write-in letter to the chairman of Pillsbury, and a "What's the Doughboy Afraid of" sticker for their car, and a chance to send in $10 and get a T-shirt that said Ben and Jerry's Legal Defense Fund major contributor on the back. And it started to become the New York Magazine, Calvin Trillin wrote a story about it, and then the New York Times wrote a story about it, the Wall Street Journal, the Boston Globe, and the Hartford Courant, and it started to become major news, and the Doughboy was getting such a black eye that Pillsbury eventually relented and allowed us to continue to distribute our ice cream. So, a little after that, our company was in a situation where we were bursting at the seams. We were in this 3,000 square foot rented facility that had all this old ice cream equipment in it. Working conditions were really bad. We didn't have enough room to store our raw ingredients. We didn't have enough room to store our finished product. And the business was doing really well. And, we were, Jerry and I looked at ourselves and we said, we're not really ice cream men anymore. We've become businessmen. We're not really spending our time scooping ice cream and making ice cream. We're spending our time dealing with lawyers and accountants, hiring and firing and writing memos and doing administrative stuff. And we felt like we were becoming just another cog in the economic machine that tends to oppress a whole lot of people. And we felt that business was a big problem in terms of our society. It exploits its workers, it exploits the environment, it exploits the community. And we weren't really sure that we wanted to keep the business. We considered very seriously selling it. And then I ran into this old eccentric restaurateur friend of mine down in Brattleboro, and I told him we were planning on selling the business. And he said, Ben, how can you possibly sell the business? The business is your baby. It's just about to take off. It's got so much potential. And I said, Maurice, you know what business does. It exploits the community, its workers, whatever, and the environment. And he said, Ben, if there's something you don't like about business, why don't you just change it? And that hadn't really occurred to me before. And so we decided to keep the business and conduct an experiment to see if it was possible to use business as a force for progressive social change, to see if it were possible to use business to solve problems and repair the environment and deal with social problems as opposed to make them worse. And, it had never been done before. We thought we were probably going to fail, but we decided to try it. So we decided to keep the business, and we needed to expand. And, the norms that business would take in venture capital, a lot of money from a few already well-to-do people. And instead of going that route, we decided to make the community the owners of the business, so that as the community, as the business prospered, the community would automatically prosper. And we did that by holding what became the first ever in-state Vermont public stock offering. We sold shares in Ben & Jerry's to our neighbors, Vermonters.
Could you repeat that 1 second, please? I never heard that before. Saying.
Well, what we did was we had the first ever in-state Vermont public stock offering. So we had a public offering, but we only sold shares to Vermonters. And that way it was not subject to SEC rules, and we didn't need to do a big filing, but it allowed us to share the wealth with a whole lot of our neighbors. And, the lawyers and accountants were all saying we were crazy, that this would never work, it had never been done before, and there weren't that many people who lived in Vermont, and those that lived there didn't have much money, and we said, we don't care. If we can't grow this way, then we don't want to grow. And by the end of the offering, we sold it out, and 1 out of every 100 Vermont families had become a shareholder of Ben & Jerry's.
You still have control and interest?
At that time.
Why don't you sell it? Why don't you give it away for free?
Why didn't we give it away for free?
You still calculate.
Financially, it doesn't really work.
So why did you sell it?
What's that?
So why did you sell it? Why did you sell it?
Why did we
Did
sell?
you sell it to make money or to share the loss?
Well, we needed an investment. We needed to build a new plant. We needed to build a new plant, and we needed to buy
So you were
new
looking for
equipment.
capital, and that's the way you did it. It's not because you wanted to share the wealth, but because you needed the capital.
Well, we definitely needed the capital. It's a question of how do you get the capital? Can you get the capital in a way that allows people to invest that are spread out, that a whole lot of people to invest, and a whole lot of people who don't have much money? Or do you get your capital in a way that only allows really rich people to get richer?
Yeah.
So we sold out that offering. We built the new ice cream plant, and things kept on going really well. And then we had formalized the Ben & Jerry's Foundation. And our thinking at the time was that essentially a business is a machine for making money. And that if we wanted to be of as much service to the community as possible, what we needed to do was give away as much money as possible. And so we started the Ben & Jerry's Foundation, which got 7.5% of our pre-tax profits. That was more than any other public company at the time. The corporate average is about 1 to 2%. So we started this foundation, and in no time it was totally overwhelmed with requests for grants from very, very worthy organizations that were dealing with things like domestic abuse or substandard housing or education or
Eradicate AIDS.
environment programs, AIDS programs. And we realized that every foundation in the country is in pretty much the same situation. There are so many overwhelming unmet basic human needs in the country that even all the foundations all put together only are a drop in the bucket. And we started to think about, is there something else that business can do? Is there more that business can do than just give away money? And we started to think about the definition of business. The usual definition of business is that business is an entity that produces a product and provides a service. At Ben & Jerry's, we started to say that a business is a combination of organized human energy plus money, which equals power. And I would go so far as to say is that business has now become the most powerful force in our society. And it didn't always used to be that way. That's only a change that happened in my own lifetime. Originally, way back, the most powerful force was religion. And then the most powerful force came to be nation states. And today it's business. And, the big difference between business as the most powerful force and those other two formerly most powerful forces, religion and nation states, is that at least religion and government had as their purpose to improve the general welfare. But for business, that's never been part of what it's supposed to do. And so business really hasn't been doing it. And in their single-minded drive to maximize profits, they've really been making things worse for the rest of society. Well, what we started to understand at Ben & Jerry's is that there's a spiritual aspect to business just as there is to the lives of individuals. As you give, you receive. As you help others, you're helped in return. As your business supports the community supports your business. Well, that's kind of radical business thinking. You don't find that in many business textbooks. And, kind of what Schopenhauer said in times like in situations like this is he says that all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. Third, it's accepted as being self-evident. Well, we're somewhere along that continuum, and I can tell you that, the idea of socially responsible business and the idea of business needing to fulfill a positive role in society outside of its own self-interest, of business taking a role in the general welfare, is really catching up. I guess I just want to give you some examples of how we've been able to integrate making a profit with helping to improve the quality of life for people in our communities. One thing that an ice cream company needs to do is come out with new flavors. We were able to find a supplier of coffee that was a cooperative in Mexico owned by peasant farmers. And by buying from them, we were able to get more money back into their hands. So we chose that process. We found a source of blueberries, wild blueberries, that were harvested by a Native American tribe in Maine. And we're able to get more money back into their hands. we found a bakery in Yonkers, New York, inner city Yonkers, New York, run by a religious institution whose purpose was to provide training, job training, for people that were formerly unemployable, ex-drug addicts, ex-convicts, formerly homeless people. And so we decided to source our brownies from that bakery. And those are the brownies that we still use today in chocolate fudge brownie ice cream and some other kind of ice cream. And, you know, we probably do about $5 million a year business with them. And the company has now made a commitment to buy the huge majority of its flavor ingredients in a way that's fair trade certified, so that we know that the smallholder farmers that are actually growing the things that we're using are being paid a living wage. And you know, one thing that ice cream companies need to do is to sell ice cream. So some of our ice cream shops are partner shops. They're owned by nonprofits. They do job training with at-risk youth, and the money goes back to their programs. And then we started using our packaging as media. You know, we came out with a chocolate-covered ice cream pop, and instead of calling it a chocolate-covered ice cream pop, we called it a peace pop. And this was before the end of the Cold War. And it advocated to shift 1% of the U.S. Defense Department budget to peace through understanding activities with the former Soviet Union. You know, the government never did that, but soon after we came out with the peace pop, the Cold War ended. So it was incredibly successful. You know, we eventually, Jerry and I wrote a book about values-led business called Lead With Your Values. And Ben and Jerry's Double Dip, how to lead with your values and make money too. The book concludes with the idea that perhaps the most powerful tool that business has at its command is its voice. That when business talks, the public listens, the media listens, the government listens. And so we decided to start using our voice to advocate for things like shifting money from nuclear weapons to education, or to advocate for environmental regulations, or to not have cows shot up with bovine growth hormone to increase milk production, but being at risk to the cows and to the people that consume their stuff. And today the company is getting involved in the battle against GMOs and also to get money out of politics with the Get the Dough Out campaign. You know, when Ben & Jerry's got sold, which was in the year 2000, that was something that I did not support. It was something that I tried to prevent, but lost that battle. When it got sold, I ended up getting involved in an organization called Business Leaders for Sensible Priorities. And the work that we did was to use the credibility of business people to talk about shifting money from Cold War era Pentagon expenditures to social needs. And I did that work for about 10 years, and elections are paid for by corporations and the very wealthy that are expecting favors in return. The system is usually called legalized bribery. So we feel in order to get rational government spending, in order to protect the environment, in order to get decent money for education, in order to solve most any problem you see, first we need to get money out of politics. And that's why I've personally become involved in the Stamp Stampede campaign. You know, to get money out of politics requires a constitutional amendment. And I used to think that, well, that's never going to happen. But especially watching the way the Occupy movement came to life and all of a sudden spread all over the country, I realized that, now with the internet, that it is possible to have a public outcry about something that's as popular as getting money out of politics. I mean, 80% of Republicans and Democrats want to get money out of politics. And most people feel like, well, yeah, I'd like to get money out of politics, but how am I supposed to do anything about that? And that is where the stamp stampede comes in. I mean, the purpose of the stamp stampede is to allow people to make their voice heard no matter where they are, no matter when they want to make their voice heard, no matter how much time they've got, whether you want to do it at home, whether you want to do it at work, whether you want to do it in shul, whether you want to do it in class. It's really easy to stamp a message on money. And the amazing thing about stamping a message on money is that every time you put a piece of stamped money out into the economic marketplace, it gets passed around 800 times. A dollar, it lives for 5 years. We're assuming that we get the average dollar stamped in the middle of its lifetime, and that it's passed around once a day. And that means 800 people are going to see it. And if you do the multiplication, if you stamp 10 bills, that's 8,000 impressions. And if you stamp 10 bills a day for 100 days, how much is that? 800,000? 80,000? It's a lot. And that's just one person. So the idea of the stamp stampede is to get tens of thousands of people stamping this message on dollar bills to pass this amendment. And the amendment has gathered a tremendous amount of momentum. Already, 11 states have voted in favor of it, and 150 congressmen have supported it. So, outside tonight, right here in North Miami, is the world's one and only Amendomatic Stampmobile, whose purpose is to draw attention to the Stamp Stampede campaign. Aaron is going to be taking this amazing piece of performing art all over the country, and the national tour begins here. I've been working with him for the last 10 days or so, transmitting all the knowledge that I have about the Amendomatic Stampmobile. I personally have been very involved in the construction of it. You got to see it to believe it, and I hope that you'll all get on the Stampede. Get your stamps. They're available for $10 a piece. You get your money stamped for free on the Stampmobile. But if you want to be a really good stamp stampeder, you want to get your very own genuine Amendomatic stamp. All right.
So what does it mean? What is about?
The stamp is about passing an amendment to get money out of politics. And the amendment says that corporations are not people and money is not speech. There were Supreme Court decisions that said that corporations are people. And when they said that, that means that they're entitled to all the rights in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So this amendment says corporations are not people. And the other thing the Supreme Court said was that money is speech. And that's what has led to super PACs. That's what's led to unlimited donations from rich people and corporations to politicians.
What about unions?
And once we say that money is not speech, then it's no longer protected as free speech, and you can limit the amount of money. What was your...
What about unions?
What about unions?
They can donate them as much as it's okay.
Stamp them.
On the, I guess a union is a corporation, so no, they would not be able.
So you're against the unions also.
I'm against any entity making large donations to politicians.
Is it legal to stamp bills?
Yes. It's an interesting part of the law. The law states that you cannot cut currency, you can't glue currency, you cannot punch holes in it. It says that you cannot advertise your business on it, you cannot change the denomination, and you cannot make it so that it's not obviously currency. But beyond that, it's legal.
You got an SBA loan, which was a loan backed by the government to start a business. Isn't that an example of money in politics? That you benefited from?
No, that's not the money in politics that we're talking about. The money in politics we're talking about is money that's being spent by individuals and corporations to influence politicians to pass laws in their favor.
So you're against people giving a lot of money to, like individual people giving a lot of their money to politicians?
Of course.
That's what you're against?
Yeah, because what happens is that it's no longer one person, one vote, and it's no longer that everybody's voice can be heard. The person who contributes a large amount of money to a politician drowns out the voice of everybody else.
So you're saying that would be the case because if you buy a lot of media and get the voice, get their message out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
How about we have all the news companies, news media. We have their own. Everyone knows the bias. Fox is to the right, MSNBC is to the left. Their corporations who have got money and speech. What about that? Is that an example of how right now in the system we have people that have a lot of money to get their ideas out, but still each person makes out their own opinion. You can choose which channel you watch.
Same with TV stations.
I don't.
You don't think
I
so?
mean, I'm not dealing with
You're saying you're afraid,
TV stations
you're
and what they say.
I think you're saying if someone has too much money, they can buy a lot of commercials and get their message out.
Well, what I'm talking about is them giving money directly to politicians in return for political favors.
I know, but if it's not going to be corporations, it's going to be individuals.
What's that?
If it's not going to be corporations, it's going to be individuals. You're against the corporations.
If every individual can give a maximum of $100, then everybody's pretty equal.
That's right.
So you want $100 stuff.
No, the Torah doesn't want you to be able to buy.
Yeah, what else there?
No, it's good. I mean, it will level but it's basically almost impossible.
It's supposed to be everybody's equal. I always heard that's what the country was about. I was listening in elementary school. I didn't listen that much after elementary school. But in elementary school,
How about the freedom that you have to spend the money that you work hard for in anything that you want? If you want to give it to a politician, you give it to whoever you want. Isn't that your freedom to spend your money that you work for in any way that you want? Do you agree with that?
do I believe that? I don't believe you should spend it for influencing politicians. No. I think that should be illegal.
So if I work hard and make a lot of money, I can buy anything except
Except a politician. That's correct. You're not supposed to buy politicians. Politicians are not supposed to be a commodity that gets sold. They're supposed to represent the people, not just the rich people.
Okay, but the people are voting for them, right? So obviously they represent people are voting for them.
Yes.
I have been an elected official in a small town out here, and I have one thing to say, and this is why I was not favored very highly by people in development and whatnot. At the end of the day, people either drop dead or move away, and the only thing left is what was there originally. You have to protect that. You have to look out for everybody. You cannot look out for just what you think is important at the time, but what's important for everybody, and I think that's the essence of what you're trying to say is these people are being influenced by a corporation's idea to do something a certain way if they're given X amount of dollars, as opposed to the individual who gives money toward the election and allows the elected official to decide accordingly what protects everybody, not just the ideals of one party. That's actually it.
then
Do you get what I'm saying?
was your being Jewish ever affected did it have any influence on the business, or did your business have any influence on anyone else? You guys being Jewish, both you and Jerry.
I think being Jewish affected me because I learned about the Jews being oppressed and discriminated against, and so I feel like I have more empathy for people that are oppressed and discriminated against.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be more practical?
I think that you've kind of monopolized the conversation. So you can ask a question privately later.
All right, I'll ask you.
So, doesn't the Torah have something to say about also that we're not supposed to be able to bribe our judges?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Politicians in Torah are not supposed to be bribed. Absolutely. That's right. Let's see, Hashem, we're just in this week's parsha. This past week's parsha, you're not allowed to bribe.
At the time, did you have nothing in mind that you could maybe have the company that wanted to buy it hold the same value to them in Nigeria?
To some extent, but I don't think that the Ben and Jerry's is as progressive or taking as cutting edge stands as it would have if it had remained independent. But we did have some ability to retain our social value.
Who is the current donor of Unilever now?
Unilever.
Oh, it's Unilever. Okay. Unilever. Can I ask you, have you seen we saw a recent program, I think it was on 60 Minutes, about all of the lobbyists that have taken over Washington, D.C., and I assume your position on lobbyists is that they're not good for the world?
Correct.
And how are we going to get, that they're prospering in Washington, D.C. more than ever, and
well, I think a large part of the lobbying game is that they direct donations to politicians.
Yeah.
They direct and bundle these political contributions, and if we eliminate these political contributions, we severely reduce their power.
Right now, the Washington D.C. is like the most powerful and the most money in the country is in Washington D.C. Something that's not supposed to be according to the Constitution. A lot of business move to Washington D.C. Big businesses, big names, big companies, and it shouldn't be like that. The Washington D.C. is supposed to be a down-earth place and not
well, it's really interesting. Washington, D.C. is a divided city. There's one part of it that's really down to earth. I mean, down.
Yeah.
Very
down.
far down.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah, very down. That's one of the biggest things.
then there's the lobbyists too.
Your company was able to be bought out because you no longer had a majority share in it?
Right.
Because you shared it with people, or because your partner Jerry decided to sell it?
No, it was because we didn't own a majority of it anymore.
Is that something you saw ahead of time? Because you said you were against the sale.
Well, we had we thought that we had anti-takeover provisions that would be successful, but they weren't.
Sorry.
At what point you made a decision why you had a kosher supervision on the product?
Kosher supervision.
I didn't understand the question.
What made you have kosher supervision on the product?
What made us have it?
Yeah.
So when did you
We just
decide?
decided that we wanted to sell it to people that were kosher.
Now, now's a big question for a lot of us, some of us who within the kosher realm, we keep called Yisrael, which is some of us. I can say to myself, I never got a chance to taste the delicious ice cream because it's not the highest standard of kasher to call Yisrael. It's beautiful that it's kosher and that most people do eat it, but there are a lot of Jewish people who only eat Kol Yisrael. Is there a chance we can get it them to change to up their standard?
Probably not.
So what do you have to say to some young entrepreneurs here who are working hard in their careers?
I have to say that the idea is not to wait until you've made it in order to work on social issues. That you need to be doing that now. Ben & Jerry's is not an example of making money and then using it to do good stuff. Ben & Jerry's is an example of integrating social concerns into day-to-day business activities. I would say that that's a big reason why Ben & Jerry's has been successful, because the community appreciates it. There's gobs of companies that are spending millions and millions of dollars on advertising and public relations to essentially make up stories or tell funny jokes to make people feel good about their brands. But if instead you decide to actually do stuff that people appreciate and that resonate with their values, you build a tremendous customer loyalty.
Okay. So your company has never gave political contribution?
Say what?
Your company has never gave political contribution?
No.
No. What about you?
Yeah, I have.
So you're gonna have?
Well, you've got the current system.
I understand. I mean, so you're trying to change.
Right.
With your money.
I'm trying to change the system.
With your money.
And as soon as I change the system, I'm not going to give money to candidates that I support. But as long as the system is that way, if I don't give money to candidates I support, they can't really play on a level playing.
So individually, yes. Like Bill Gates, you can give contributions, but if it's a corporation, it's different.
I'm not in Bill Gates' class. Trust me on that.
I'm willing you will be.
So why do you think companies have shifted away from being less socially responsible?
They shifted away from it. I think companies are moving toward it. I think they're more social. They're definitely becoming more environmentally concerned. I think there's more and more companies that are doing better stuff. They're at least aware of it. I think they're trying to buy from smallholder farmers. Various companies have been really pretty good on issues of gender, non-discrimination.
So the company that the Ben & Jerry's was sold to, that company is in accordance to your beliefs.
Not really.
They're not an American company, right?
What's that?
They're not an American foreign company.
Right. They're a global corporation. They're huge. They're $50 billion. There's actually an issue. They are in favor of GMOs, and Ben & Jerry's is against GMO. Go figure.
As a company, when you were owner, you were giving contributions. You were giving contributions to other charities, Yes. Charities organizations.
That's part of it.
Jerry were giving contributions to charities, right?
Charity is not where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's about integrating social concerns into your life and how you go about your life. Anyhow, it's time to start the machine. Was it raining?
Thank you.
It's pouring. Well, I guess our machine may not happen.
We thank Ben so much for joining us.
All right.
Ben is a Kohen. So we have reserved for him the Kohen Aliyah show. So if, just in case, the rain stops, we're leaving for Shabbos. So Ben's invited to join us for Shabbos for a good, I don't know about ice cream. We'll have chulin on Shabbos.
Yeah.
And
take a picture with you. It's not working. It's going
I have a guy I need to talk to. I'll be right
I want to remind everybody again that we have Purim coming up next Sunday, not this Sunday, the Sunday after. We have Purim coming up. We have a Grand Slam Purim party right here. Everyone's invited to join us for. We have March. What do we have? We have March 6th. We have 10 tips to reduce stress in everyday living. We have Friday night Shabbat dinner this week, and then again we have March 1st. The Torah completion ceremony on March 21st. Of course, we have the community Seder here, Passover, Pesach Seder right here, and so many other things coming up.
Ah, no, no, no. Entonces, agarramos la caja y tenemos que agarrar mi carro.
March 6th
Y después damos la caja
for stress. For ladies only?
No,
Men and women. What?